Which? Probably not. The Gita? Yeah, I'll take the Gita. Sure. Do I hold?
Do you swear by Almighty God that the evidence you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Can you please state your full name?
Devavrath Parasuram.
You have prepared a witness statement dated the 19th of August 2026.
Yes, I have.
Is that statement true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Commissioner, I tender the statement. It has doc ID stat.899.000.0660_R.
Yes, the statement is admitted.
You are a university student based in Sydney, which is where you were born and raised, is that right?
Yes, correct.
You're an economics graduate and you're currently studying law.
Yes, I am.
And you're part of the Australian Hindu community.
Yes, I am.
In the past, you've been and you continue to be actively involved in Hindu youth initiatives.
Yes.
And that has included some time as a leader with Hindu Youth Australia.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about that youth leadership role?
Yeah, so when this opportunity came to me, it's a privilege to kind of give back to the community, especially in the period I've grown up. I'm in my early to mid 20s, and growing up, the community infrastructure was getting there, but wasn't completely there. So when I finished school, I thought, what can I do to my community to give the things that I didn't necessarily get? And youth leadership here was a great opportunity, because what I found is what people want above all is community and a sense of belonging, and creating initiatives and effectively what is community infrastructure to make people feel like they belong is such a powerful tool for people's personal identity, but also community identity as a whole.
And you were one of the co-founders of a fairly recently established organisation called Hindus Down Under.
Yes.
When was Hindus Down Under started?
Around January this year.
And is it right that the focus of Hindus Down Under is around youth identity, social cohesion, changing the public perception of Hinduism, both for Hindu Australians and also for the broader Australian community?
I think that last comment around public perception, it could probably, I think, carries a bit more nuance, but broadly, yes.
Would you like to expand on that nuance, as you say?
I think we will probably go into it when we talk about, anti-Hindu, anti-Indian hate, but that nuance comes to how Hindus are perceived both in the wider community, but also media and public language used, because that's come to a particular inflection point, especially in the last year.
And perhaps off the back of that, can I ask, why was it that you and your co-founders decided to found the organisation?
Yeah, so we'd been talking about this for a while, and in the wake of what happened, the tragedy at Bondi, we realised that one of the big problems is that the digital space has taken over, especially with young people, their communication with other communities. And we found that it's very important that we have community initiatives such as the Australian Cohesion Forum that actually go out and have those grassroots conversations, because that's what builds human empathy, and it brings down the probability of dehumanization to a far lower level. Just from a personal level, you wouldn't insult someone to an extent if you actually had met them and had that empathetic connection, and actually meet with a real person and understand who they are, what is their background, rather than getting it from wherever in the internet.
And you've said in your witness statement that Hindus Down Under hopes to take a proactive approach in helping to build social cohesion by working with governments, with community organisations and others that share a similar drive and vision. Is that right?
Yes.
Arising from that, what is your personal view, and if different, the view of Hindus Down Under about what social cohesion involves in a practical sense?
In a practical sense, it involves communities having open conversations with each other, collectively working towards a common good, which is national unity, and building systems that allow people to learn about each other in an organic way, not in a way that's dictated necessarily by algorithms, by people on people in media, but actual grassroots connection. But also what social cohesion entails is having those open and honest conversations in a respectful manner in which we can actually get some progress.
And you shared in your witness statement a little about the Hindu community in Sydney, at least more broadly.
Yeah.
And you've noticed that really like any cultural group, the Hindu community is diverse, it's pluralist, and it can't be defined in any particular way. Would you like to expand on that?
The beauty of the Hindu faith is that there is no one definitive path. The Hindu faith is one that it's a personal journey, but it's also a journey as a collective, and that personal journey stems from people's tradition. It's also stated as like sampradaya, which is effectively tradition, and people, where it originates from. If you say India, where Hinduism comes from, it's such a vast country built of different cultures, and the understanding of Hinduism, we understand that it's a very complex way. What spirituality, it's a very complex thing, and to break it down into systems has been done tradition by tradition, which is why different Hindu groups will have different systems of how they go about practicing their faith and also their outlook in spirituality. And I think that's one of the things that adds that beauty, is that we don't definitely know what's out there, but we have our own way of perceiving it, and and discussing about it. And discussion is above all the most important thing.
And you remarked on the regrettable experiences of racial abuse that have been sustained by a number of members of the Hindu community more recently, including yourself personally. Are you in a position to tell us about that? Yeah,
it's probably more shocking, I guess, growing up. Whatever racism you got, it wasn't particularly like it was more just of a misunderstanding of culture rather than something targeted. What was unprecedented probably in the last year and this year was people specifically coming up to you and saying, I hate you for who you specifically are. And I would just think, why would you, in school we're always taught, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it. But to have people who feel emboldened enough to go up to someone unprompted and tell them how much they hate them, that is something that is quite shocking and saddening to see in our society, and really shows that we do need to start looking at how we have more respectful conversation, even at a political level.
And you've commented in particular that there's always been a deep connection between the Hindu community and the Jewish community in Australia, to your observation, and that you believe that this is a relationship that must continue in the current climate. Can you explain why you hold that belief?
Hindu and Jewish communities have both come from a place of where they face their fair share of adversity, especially for Hindu communities it's that migrant background coming in for many of these migrants from India and elsewhere as well, and what we've always shared is a cordial relationship and a welcoming relationship with the Jewish community, where there's been understanding of principles and differences. And I might take this moment to talk about a dinner we had last year. It was called a Hanukkah Deepavali dinner, and we was with a Jewish community group, youth here, and it was wonderful, where we came together, two different festivals, but we were able to both share the meaning over a dinner and gain an understanding of each other. Now, the next time someone from the Jewish community sees a Deepavali event in around October this year, they'll have that connection to it. They'll have a personal connection to it. And whatever they might hear or online or whatever that goes on, for them it's that they can go, okay, well, I've met this community, I know what this is. It probably isn't true, but I can also go ask my friend. Whereas what's happening, what I see a lot now is people look at these, whatever stereotypes are made out, and because they don't have that human to human connection, there's nothing to verify with.
You've mentioned the youth dinner just then, and in your witness statement you've outlined some other activities or initiatives that you've been involved in, whether through Hindus Down Under or otherwise, to facilitate intercultural engagement, particularly between Hindu youth and the Jewish community.
Yep.
Can you tell us about your involvement in the initiatives of the Australian Cohesion Forum, whose representatives we just heard some evidence from?
Yeah. So our first main conversation came in the wake of the Bondi attacks. We had a community consultation. It wasn't just with Hindus Down Under and Australian Cohesion Forum. It was with a group of Hindu community leaders, where we mapped out what are the commonalities in the anti-Semitism, in the rising anti-Semitism and Hinduphobia that's going on, and what we could do to actually address just national unity and social cohesion together. Because we can have one problem, we can have one solution ourselves, but national unity requires all of us to be working actively together for that outcome. And this was what I thought was a momentous occasion, where we've now opened up an opportunity for communities to directly work together for the benefit of the country.
And the particular initiative that we heard about a little earlier, namely a hate reporting tool for the Hindu community.
Yep.
Are you able to comment on what you see the practicality of that kind of mechanism to be?
Yeah, the practicality is that we get quantitative data, and quantitative data is what ultimately drives policy decisions, along with qualitative data. We've got qualitative data in a sense of, evidence of racial abuse, racial statements being made towards other people, and racism, as I pointed out today. But this does need to be compiled in one that can be followed. I do appreciate that governments receive hundreds and hundreds of reports, so it needs to. That hate tracker is a great way of compiling this information in one, and something that could be put together that puts up almost a good story for the government to digest and be able to appropriately respond to.
And you've referred to having spoken on a panel organised by the Australian Cohesion Forum in April 2026, along with Yazidi and Jewish youth speakers, where you detailed some of your own experiences as a Hindu university student on campus. What struck you from that panel event and perhaps subsequent exchanges around challenges that are faced by different parts of the community and particularly youth?
Yeah, I think what struck me was, as a Hindu university student, I have to say I've been very privileged in the sense that the university has always been a welcoming space. And what really struck me was, especially for Jewish students, the difficulties they have, the lack of confidence to even go to class without having to feel like they were in danger, is something that is really shocking and really saddening to see. That students, we had a student there who was talking about going to class and being spat on by someone unprovoked. And you would think that in the country, in the multicultural society that we've built up over centuries, that we would be above this. But it really saddened me that learning that we might all be students, but some are treated different to others due to an unfortunate climate.
And I think you expressed the view in your statement that when one Australian community finds itself under threat, we should not regard that as someone else's problem. Is that right?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, social cohesion affects us all. If we're not united as one community and we just let one community cop it, it's just going to go to the next community, and then the next community, and then the next community, and then we'll have to wait for an atrocity to happen for some meaningful change. But ideally, if we want to come together as a country, we really got to understand who are we as a country, and it requires my problem, to be addressed as well by everyone everyone here, as well as your problem to be addressed by me as well.
And are you able to tell us about the event that I think occurred only last week at the Art Gallery of New South Wales?
Yeah, so the Art Gallery of New South Wales is hosting avatars of Vishnu gallery, and it's a fascinating place. I'll encourage everyone to go check it out if they ever got a time. But we also had an event with Hindus Down Under where we brought some youth, and we had a guided tour. We also had some youth Jewish students as well from youth here to come, and it was a great chance to go over what the avatars of Vishnu are, the 10 forms of the god Vishnu, and he comes down in different forms that symbolize different things and have different meanings, and that's what the whole exhibit is about, because it's had different meanings over history. So to discuss that, learn something ourselves, but also share that knowledge, it was a very enjoyable experience.
And you outline your perspective and perhaps perspective of Hindus Down Under as well in your statement, that whilst one-off events can be valuable for building social cohesion, lasting social cohesion requires relationships that survive beyond a photograph or a social media post or a particular speech. What practical supports do you think can be provided to grassroots organisations like Hindus Down Under to build that ongoing trust between different communities within Australia?
Yeah, I think practical support, an example of that is actually through the Cohesion Forum themselves. What they provided is, we wanted to go out and do something for the country. And we were like, where do we start? And that's where the Australian Cohesion Forum comes in and goes, we will connect you up with these communities and you guys can go do an event. That's what we did with Indigenous communities. It's what we did with the Jewish community, and we've had opportunities, as I said in the panel, to connect with the Yazidi community as well. And that is a practical angle there. The other thing is, I think, from a policy perspective, is taking that grassroots route of accelerating the projects that are going towards national unity. So those community groups that are looking to come out and say, let's talk about each other's problems and work towards a common goal. I think it's very practical that the government takes a bottom-up approach rather than just a simple top-down approach. And I think an organic growth of social cohesion and national unity will do far better long-term than a short-term reactive approach, which can be opened up through, it really depends on what the legislative response is, but a top-down approach might not be as effective as hoped.
Thank you. And can I invite you to conclude your evidence today by reading from paragraph 41 of your witness statement?
Yep. The beauty of democracy lies not in our ability to agree, but in our willingness to share a common future with people whose convictions may be profoundly different from our own. Therefore, the measure of success will not be whether we have eliminated disagreement, but whether, in spite of differences, we built a society in which an Australian can look across every cultural and religious boundary and still recognise something fundamental. Your place here is bound to mine, and neither of us is truly secure in our belonging unless both of us belong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You are excused.
Thank you.